So Brian Stelter, host of Reliable Sources on CNN, recently had Daily Poster founder David Sirota on to get a progressive take on how the media has covered the reconciliation bill and the Democratic opposition to it. Sirota has important points to make, and Stelter characteristically doesn't get it.
I would love to hear your number one critique of how Biden and his social safety net bill and how this battle to get it through Congress, how it's being covered in the press. Your number one critique.
My number one critique is that there hasn't been a lot of following of the money. That if you pay attention to the conversation in the media, there hasn't been a lot of context about which industries are buying which politicians. You see the parties fighting with each other, you see the pieces of the Democratic coalition fighting with each other, but removed from much of the story is the fact that the oil industry, the fossil fuel industry is pumping a lot of money into this. The pharmaceutical industry is pumping a lot of money into this. Many of the members of Congress who are trying to kill Democrats' promise prescription drug plan, they have taken a huge amount of money from the pharmaceutical industry. So writing the money behind the bill out of the story of the bill is a huge problem, and it doesn't give viewers and readers the context that they need.
So here's the thing. There are only two senators on the Democratic side who had opposed the $3.5 trillion price tag for the reconciliation bill: Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. The bill includes things like a Medicare expansion, clean energy requirements, provisions for lowering drug prices. Now, it just so happens that Sinema and Manchin take a lot of money from organizations and companies that also oppose the bill, namely pharmaceutical and energy. I just wrote a piece for Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting that goes over all of this, and in a review of 21 episodes of Network News that discuss the bill and the Democratic opposition to it, I found only 45 seconds that actually discuss the link between lawmakers' finances and lawmakers' positions. This is Sirota's primary critique of how the media covered the reconciliation bill. They haven't spent enough, really hardly any time, talking about the money. Everyone knows that money is incredibly powerful and influential. Even Brian Stelter knows that, and he'd never hesitate to acknowledge that the GOP is bought by oil and gas and pharmaceuticals and whatever. But Stelter and most others in the media have a really hard time applying these principles universally. But why would we expect anything else? Reliable Sources with Brian Stelter is a show about media criticism on CNN. CNN is owned by Warner Media, whose anchors are millionaires and whose shows survive as advertising vessels for fossil fuel and pharmaceutical companies, among others. People like Brian Stelter suffer from breathtaking cognitive dissonance. This person, who hosts one of the country's biggest media criticism platforms, must actually think, I assume, that oil and gas money might buy votes in Congress, but it doesn't affect coverage on CNN, or at least not to a meaningful degree. Which of course, it does. Truly, this is like a recycling program run by an oil company. The difference being that the oil company's recycling program is totally cynical, whereas Stelter, again I assume, believes he's doing good journalism. And it probably goes over his head the absurdity of any network anchor talking about the media in the third person. That just always makes me laugh when someone like Tucker Carlson talks about the media as if he's not a key figure in the media. So Stelter blows through Sirota's answer about money, doesn't address it at all. Looking at the money, like I discussed in my Fair piece, has been totally downplayed by the media in favor of less serious horse race style commentary. Ignoring the money serves only to confuse and misinform, and that is what Stelter should be concerned with.